I hate those people who are like, "Oh, I'd love to have lived in this time and that time." It's like, are you serious right now? Like you wanted to live in a. It wasn't
What
even
if the
that
time is
long ago.
future?
In the future is always the best bet. Yeah, the future is going to be awesome. Like if you go far enough forward, it gets real bad. But then if you keep going farther, it gets real good again. It's certainly the way I look at it. Like there might be some bad days in the future, but there's going to be some great days. There's going to be space exploration and faster than light travel and all sorts of cool things. Diseases will be eliminated. Like it's going to be great. But you go back just like 100 fucking years, 200 years, and they're burning witches. They're burning witches. And all it takes to be accused of a witch is for the other girls at school to be jealous of your hair or something like that.
Look up any stats about the rate of witchery, and you'll see they've only increased since we stopped doing this. So, yeah, I mean, eventually it seems like the future will collapse. Like the planet will decide to say "fuck you" or something like that. You know?
That shit's cyclical. Like I said, there's going to be some bad times, but it's always going to get better. It's always going to get better. I saw Rogan talking about how there are some people who believe that all the alien sightings, especially those that we've had recently, where there are actual like fighter pilots talking about seeing these objects that are traveling at speeds that are not possible by a human or anything like that. There's some people who think that those are time travelers.
Which people don't think that aliens have visited here? Like, because I can't imagine. You guys don't think that aliens have visited here?
So by aliens, you mean intelligent life in a spacecraft came, observed us, and left?
Yeah.
I'm not.
I would bet. That. I would again. I'm a gambler, so I'd like to bet a lot of money that that's happened.
I think that the odds.
Okay, but how would you How would you prove it?
Well, there's no way to quantify it.
Well, you drag one of those
I don't live too
out.
far from. I don't live too far from Area 51. Okay. Right. And I do know people. So I remember one guy, and I can't name him or whatever, but he used to work at Area 51, and he said, "I can't confirm or deny that I've seen alien life and aircrafts being worked on in Area 51. Like there's so much evidence, I think, that's almost overwhelming at this point. If you really go down the rabbit hole, and not the crazy rabbit hole of like these weirdos that like saw something in the woods, but when you talk about, people that worked in this environment, like that were actual, military or something like that, talking about all the documents and things they've seen all the way back from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Bob Lazar is the best piece of evidence.
Yeah, Bob Lazar is a perfect example. Like, I mean, he's not lying.
Who's Bob Lazar for the audience, Kyle?
Bob Lazar was a guy who claims he worked at a part of the Area 51 base. And some of the interesting things about Bob Lazar is he talked about this element way back in the 80s when he came forward with his story. At the time, the element was only theorized. It's now on the periodic table. He said that he saw 9 spacecraft, at least one of which had been part of an archaeological dig. Like they had found this thing. It had been here for a very long time. Some of them were crashes, and he has a lot of. Another thing that he spoke about is the biometric scanner that was used to gain entry into the base, and he explained that your hand goes onto it and actually measures fingertip length in relation to the bones in your hands. And at the time in the 80s, everybody was like, biometrics aren't a thing yet. We don't believe you. That's as much gobbledygook as Little Green Men that you're talking about. But now there's photographs of the exact device that he described. Things like his his education has been erased. His social security number is gone. And you got to think that like during the time where he came forward, it was the 80s. Everything was there was literally a paper trail. When we talk about a paper trail now, we mean data. We mean things in servers that are kind of hard to actually get rid of because there's so many duplicates across the internet. The Streisand effect alone, we've seen how it's hard to get rid of a fucking meme now. But back then, you could just delete someone's identity by going to a couple of different folders, taking the papers out and tearing them in half. And now this guy's education is gone. They claim that he didn't work at these bases, but there are registries with his name on them. There's a lot of evidence to support the fact that he was there. You listen to him talk, he's clearly a very well-educated guy. And he said that he saw flying saucers in there and that he was part of the team that was working to try to understand their propulsion system, which he claims was a gravity manipulation system powered by this element that I referred to earlier.
The only thing that seems kind of like up in the air with it is I feel like if aliens that are advanced enough to get here and have shit like a gravity propulsion system, like would they crash? Like, because if you're that advanced, it seems like they could just easily come take a peek at us and then leave without our, puny technology being able to get a peek at them.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about how many, if you, that's just a question of numbers, right? If they've done, let's say, for example, 1 million trips, the odds are that some of those trips may have had some complications, occasionally. They're not just like unlikely to be completely perfect, and there's been, there was the one crash, what the hell, Roswell or whatever it was called?
Yeah.
Way back when. There's that one. And there was a recent crash. This one is interesting. It's a YouTube video of these kids in Australia who all kids that are like 5, 6, 7 years old, all way too young to be able to lie this effectively. They all collectively were asked one by one what they just saw. They describe a man in a spaceship. They describe the typical, alien look of a guy that, we assimilate with what aliens look like. So either A, this was some sort of hoax gang, thing where some guy did this, came in a ship and was trying to create this, or like these kids clearly saw something, whether it was an alien or whether it was a fake, they saw something. There's just no way that didn't happen. And again, like it could be a hoax, but I just think there's far too much evidence out there already that the government knows stuff that, if you ever see Unassigned, I think it's called, on Netflix.
No.
That's one that goes down the rabbit hole too, all starting from Roswell till now, and to go aside with Bob Lazar also has a Netflix special, I think, too, about his journey.
See, this is the kind of shit Trump should be tweeting. Like photos, evidence for the rest of us. That'd be pretty tight.
I thought
selfie.
If aliens were real, Trump,
Get a load of this.
that Trump would tell us. Like,
These are Melania's people.
Also, I could imagine a world where, like any other president, Obama, W, Clinton, etc., doesn't like immediately go like, all right, aliens thing, right? I want the inside scoop. But Trump would. On day one, I feel like that was his top priority. Like, tell me about the little green men.
You guys were saying that there wasn't a deep state. It's deeper than you know. Get a load of this.
And just a photo of him and his fat golfing ass standing in front of an alien
with the red hat on.
Put
the red hat on an alien.
My friend Nurgle made me this driver. Look at it. 1,000 yards every time.
That's how I want to imagine that the Space Force thing happened, is that they're like, President Trump, we do have to show you something. I know it's day one, but this is tradition. He's like,
Jesus fucking Christ. We don't have anything against these guys, do we? Do you even have laser guns, or is that a myth? Is that a Hollywood night?
like, and then he started the Space Force.
Well, he thought stealth. Like, he thought stealth meant that, like, the ship is invisible. He said that many times, where he actually thought, like, we have the stealth technology, where he described it as though it would be completely invisible.
I have to believe that I'm not at the Trump. I'm sort of not a Trump person, but I have to believe that was like a misinterpretation. Like, he might have said that, but he didn't mean it.
Or
he
did
said
he
it multiple times
that he shouldn't have? Maybe they were like, Mr. President, don't tell him about the invisible ships. Fuck. Stealth. We use the word stealth. Don't talk about the fucking invisible ship
you
program.
Just see a man in a sitting position zooming through the sky.
Like the old Fantastic Four. Like
Wonder Woman in the DC comics.
Yeah. Actually, I'm in the bathroom of the Wonder Woman jet.
Oh, have you seen that cartoon where she goes to the bathroom in the invisible
that's Family
ship?
Guy. Yeah. Yeah, that's fucking funny. Yeah, I don't know. I've never really delved too much into the alien thing, like in Roswell. I genuinely don't know. It seems like maybe I don't buy that they've been here, but they definitely exist.
Right. People smarter than me have said that it's almost a mathematic impossibility, right? There's this many stars, and if this many stars make it up 10 planets, and it turns out 1 in 1,000 of those planets is habitable like ours, there's just so many that some of them have to have followed our
it would be pretty arrogant to think, in the universe being as big as it is, infinite, that we are the only planet that has any form of like life. It's just,
but
it's
if
almost,
that was the
basically
scenario,
an
that's
impossibility.
what they would think.
It would be like looking at a forest and be like, you think there's any birds in any of those trees? Yeah, probably birds in lots of them. Well, we can't really see them from here.
Yeah, we'll point them all out. And it's like, well,
how about this tree? No bird in this tree. That's one tree. It's a forest. I think there's definitely intelligent life. I think there's people like us out there with like a bunch of like fucking octopus limbs or something like that, wondering if we exist, or maybe they've been here and they're like, have you been to the monkey planet? Those guys are ridiculous.
I would just hope that if it ever did happen where aliens showed up, that we're the taller and sexier group.
I hope we don't make
That
an
would
asshole.
suck if it's like, yeah, we are coming from planet Iceland.
There's a group of those
beautiful
people.
with 6'10".
They call them the tall whites. Have you heard of the tall whites? Google
the
that.
Greys,
the tall whites is a thing, which is they're an alien crew that come from that area, the Scandinavians. So you're like, what you're describing is actually a thing. In addition to the little green ones, they've got the tall whites who supposedly walk among us.
I only want them to show up if they're uglier than we are. They can be smarter, that's fine. But I don't want an alpha male group of Icelandic-looking guys coming and
you don't want a bunch of Thors. Like
no,
Getting all the pussy. My biggest fear would be that our leaders made us look foolish. Wouldn't you be on pins and needles if they actually showed up and let's just pretend they're going to land in the United States? I don't know. And they're like, all right, bring us your leader, and we're all like,
yeah. About
all right,
that.
let's talk about this. Do you mean our technological leader? Because we got
send
this
him
guy
Oprah.
Musk.
I don't know. Oprah.
Right?
Just send him Oprah. Here's our leader. I don't know.
Do you mean like maybe the leader of the NHL? Because we've got a couple of good old boys from Canada, but if you have to be like, Mr. Trump, the visitors, they want to see you.
Right. Trump instantly leads with this bullshit over macho handshake, and we're like, fuck.
He's jerking the alien around.
He's
pulling him over.
He pulls the limb off. It's like, Jesus, Trump.
I feel like if aliens are advanced enough and they got here, they'd like look at us the way we look at animals in a zoo almost, where they'd be like, these people are hilarious. Look, they got little atom bombs like we had 30,000 years ago.
Not even aliens in a zoo, like termites crawling around, Like, yeah, there's a couple airborne ones, but they're mostly land. They have land bound. They have no, they kind of work as a society, but they're essentially idiotic. And
this is basically nothing but what I've learned from movies, but I feel like any aliens showing up here, they wouldn't be nearly as interested in what we're doing and more interested in like, oh, fuck, this is resource-rich planet material.
See, I don't believe that either.
Take that.
I don't believe the whole thing about that they would be here for our resources, because I feel like if they've got that technology, they can just create things like water out of oxygen.
Well, the theory,
hydrogen.
the theory about why they're here, why they're visiting, is because of our nuclear capability. And according to this one thing that I saw, they're worried about what we can do to the solar system and the universe that can affect their planet if we go crazy and have a nuclear war here. So like that's supposedly they're worried about us because we're a hostile, crazy people. This is
how
where
would our nukes like fuck up a different planet?
I think supposedly it can have an effect on throwing things offline or whatever, when it goes through the atmosphere. And I don't know, I'm not a freaking scientist, but they say that it could have an effect on this is what when some supposed guy who worked in the military said he got a message from an alien. And this was the reason they supposedly.
I believe that guy.
Yeah, right. I mean,
my thought process would be like if they're actually visiting, then there's got to be a reason why they haven't landed and been like, hey, we're here. It's got to be because they think we're assholes.
Yeah,
and they don't think we're ready to even
boring.
talk to them yet.
That was my personal theory.
I think it's
we're not boring though. Come on, that they wouldn't think we're fucking interesting.
No.
I find termites boring. I find earthworms boring. I find all these things that are light years below me to be uninteresting to watch for more than a
they don't
few
have
Termites
culture.
don't have shit like bum fights.
We have culture, like I don't think it's. I get the comparison between a higher being and termites, and I get that. But we have culture, right? We have comedy, we have entertainment, we have a lot of things that I feel like we would be interesting. Like even if we found some like early hominids on fucking Pluto, and we were like, they eat their own shit, but god damn, are they some good comedians? Like look at this slapstick. They invented slapstick in the year 40.
I hear you, but I feel like their comedy would exist on such a higher plane that they wouldn't consider ours funny. Like. When I look
if they don't like cum jokes, I don't want them coming. Yeah, no, I don't want them here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I hope there are aliens, and I hope that someday that we find out that they're real and we get to talk to them.
I just hope they're friendly.
I hope they're friendly too. I hope they don't want to like turn us into some sort of slave labor or like eat us or something.
Wouldn't be surprising. It's kind of what as a society we do to animals now. So if they saw us as animals, they'll put us in factories and use us like in Matrix and use us as batteries to power.
What if they wanted to eat us?
I have this hope
why
that,
not?
that we're
That's
amongst
bad.
the least useful slave animals on the planet, right? First they get the horses, then they get the sheep and the goats and all sorts of shit way better than us, lions and bears.
No, because
I would make a great pet.
We can use tools and shit. Like they can just use us.
I guess.
We're
I
also
don't
the
know.
best long distance runners on the planet. They put us on some big hamster wheels, just grind it out, boys.
But when it comes to
I know we
dragging shit
discovered
around,
gravity
we're terrible.
inverse formula, but let's use these runners to get our ship back home.
That's literally the premise of that stupid fucking John Travolta movie that's based on the L. Ron Hubbard novel.
Dianetics?
It's a different one. That's the one they based their religion on. It's one of his actual science. It's one of the ones that were science fiction, not the real religious text. That he wrote. Just
My mistake.
you've got to separate the two. Clearly, they have not. The fact that he's a science fiction writer has nothing to do with the fact that he invented his own religion.